humanities.
I have a question for you. What does Capitol Hill mean to you?
It means a place that's very liberal, very diverse, a lot of cool people. Like the really neighborhood you could feel like you fit in because there's a lot of different type of people.
Where the diversity of people comes and lives and like be free with it, like be comfortable with it. And
Like a real community. It's like it's really diverse. You know, it's like the area that I live in right now too, like Ranger Vista. It's like for a comparison, it's like both of them. It's like a place where I know wherever I go, I'll be accepted. Like my house, I mean like my community, I know I'm gonna be accepted because like there's other people that look like me who come from the same area who are there. So when I come to school, I feel the same way. I know if it was not diverse, I know if it was just like a certain group of people, like, and I didn't, if I did not feel that diversity, I wouldn't feel like I was connected to the school, you know, because of that. So that's like a huge impact of the diversity. So
For you, it's like a home away from home kind of thing.
basically.
diversified
Yeah.
and I think more accepted over here.
You're like, yeah, when did you guys get here? Like,
Yesterday.
Oh.
I've been here once before.
okay. So like when you first came here, like what was like the vibe you got from it?
Everyone's really
I
friendly.
really liked it. I just felt like I fit in easily.
Yeah.
It just felt nice.
Do you think so? Let's see. Do you think the community itself, like it's just kind of, it's like open? I feel like it's pretty open.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a very open, accepting
Yeah,
neighborhood.
you should be proud of it.
Yeah. How do you guys feel about America as a whole? Not so much.
Everywhere has their problems, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, my number. Capitol Hill, for me, is sort of like my escape. I was raised and grew up on a very secluded island where there's not a lot of diversity. And so coming here is just sort of like an eye-opening experience. And coming here is basically just like the real world.
How do you feel about Capitol Hill? Like, what does it mean to you when you think of Capitol Hill?
What does Capitol Hill mean? It means white people. It means gentrification. It means all kinds of new loft developments and businesses coming in. People from outside of the community coming in. I can't say that I'm necessarily tied to the community here on Capitol Hill. However, I don't know. There's something about this bar scene and loft development that doesn't really speak to me, and it kind of makes me wonder what's going to happen to this neighborhood in the next few years, decades, I suppose.
Interesting just to ask people and see what kind of same question to different people, see what kind of interpretation they get and how they answer it. It was fun as well.
Love that there's a huge LGBTQ community on Capitol Hill and in Seattle in general. I think getting a diverse perspective about that and like understanding the community and being immersed in something like Capitol Hill where there are so many people around so you can learn about it and understand it more, I think is really important, and I wish more people could experience. I think the support behind the community is so much huger than it used to be. Like talking with people of the generation before me are a lot less accepting than I think our generation is, and I think that it's amazing how progressive we've been in getting more acceptance for this.
Okay. How do you define disability?
Well, as a person with dyslexia and ADHD, I don't necessarily believe ADHD is a disability because I think a lot of it had to do with my personality. I know I get distracted easily, but the hyperactivity aspect of ADHD is part of my personality. Like I was a hyper kid, and
So for me, as going from being anti-drug to getting in a relationship and starting to use like methamphetamines, and going from being like the lovable guy that everybody wanted to be around to going to being socially outcasted, but nothing's changed about me. Like my personality didn't change. I didn't do anything shady to people, but like there's this stigma. And I got treated like I was lower than everybody else. Like it was worse than coming out for me. It was like, even though like I was gay, that wasn't a problem, but because I was a crystal user, I might as well had like the measles or something. Like nobody wanted to be near me. People talked about me. I knew I was being whispered about in public. I lost a job. I lost friends. And all it did is make me go and use more. And then like through my own inner power, I found out about like AA and the 12 steps, and I put in a lot of work to get.
Like women's role, how do you think about women have more or less privilege than men?
We have less privilege.
Yeah, can you tell me the reason why? Why you think that?
Tradition mostly. The history of the roles that women have taken. I think that's changing, but a little bit slowly. Yes, and I have learned relatively late in life that as a woman you have to do things differently than men. The way you dress is much more important. And so I learned later in life that I can't wear tank tops like you're wearing.
Yeah.
I have to cover my shoulders.
Yeah.
I have to have my hair back. I have to wear lipstick. And if I don't do those things, people don't know how to take me seriously.
Yeah.
So just me being the way I am doesn't allow people to take me seriously. Whereas if I look a certain way, it's easier for them to hear me.
In regards to the question involving if it's better to be a woman or a man that's paralyzed from the neck down in our society, well, first of all, as a person of color, I think it would be the hardest thing in a society to be a woman and a person of color. So a woman of color, I think that would be extremely more challenging to be a paralyzed male from the neck down. If you're still able to speak and function in a wheelchair, I mean, you might not be a like hypersexualized object. You might not have to go through certain, daily like discriminations and whatnot. But at the same time, I believe that a lot of the feminist movement is kind of killing things like chivalry and like I don't want to like open a door for a woman and then have her yell at me like, oh, you don't need to open that door for me. I'm a strong woman of color, So I don't know. So there's a fine line. It's an interesting balance. I think that might be for a male's perspective to say that in itself shows like, why don't you ask a woman what she thinks, not a man? Because in the end, it's like up to the individual, the female's perspective.
What does the word queer mean to you?
I think the word queer has a negative connotation just in society, but I think the community is trying to regain that word and make it more of a positive communal thing where they can bring a positive light back to it.
Okay.
So several years ago, I was sitting in a cafe with a friend of mine, a white woman, and we were talking about books, and I was mentioning a particular author who's a particular white woman author that I had just read her book, and I said, yeah, it was okay, and I had made some comments, and she had asked me, well, if that was a male author, do you think you would have made those same comments? And I, not understanding the question, I just simply said, of course I would. And we got to discussing kind of the role of women in society, and I found myself making this statement. The words that were coming out of my mouth were along the lines of, when confronted with the idea of male privilege, I said, what do you mean male privilege? I'm black. Privilege is not a word that I associate with myself, but also I found myself saying things like, women have it good.
Yeah.
I said, I see women everywhere. I see them in these positions of power. I said, women have it good these days. And even as the words were coming out of my mouth, there was some bell that was going off in the back of my mind, but I wasn't really, they didn't really register loud enough for me to kind of think about what I was saying. But as soon as they were out in the open, I was able to examine them a little more, and she kind of walked me through that. And it was just really intriguing that those were the words that were coming out of my mouth, and I'm sure that being a black male in this society, that those are the words that come out of the mouths of white people in regards to black people. And so it was really sobering from that point. And so it's kind of pushed me, that and a bunch of other things have kind of pushed me to really maybe engage with people a little more and hopefully read up about some things so I don't find myself making yet another foolish comment. But I think it's important to get those kind of ideas out to the open, because more often than not we internalize them, we hold them in, and then they just somehow fester and they just rot inside of us, and then our actions, I guess that rot kind of materializes itself in our actions in the way that we interact with other people.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's sufficient for you.
How did you guys feel asking people these questions? Anybody? Go ahead. Anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, so at first some questions like you feel kind of awkward to ask, because sometimes it might like
you're afraid that you might like offend someone, or like you can feel you can feel that they are not willing to answer you, so you feel really awkward. Like, did you do that?
So after finished doing this, like I feel like there's a lot of articles that we went through during the class, but we don't really actually have the real experience to life. And through this chance, I feel like there's a lot of different stories that were to be heard, and there's a lot of different point of views from different people. So it's really fun.
Okay. Do you have anything? How did you feel asking these questions?
Well, uh, I was complete. I enjoy
Yeah,
asking
you liked
questions.
asking the questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I think my limitation with the language, it was a little bit hard to ask some
Yeah.
correctly question, but I think, yeah, we hear a lot of stories.
Okay. How did you feel?
It was a bit interesting because when you ask somebody like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" Like, you got a minute. It's kind of like awkward, like she said, as well as like people. They're like, "Okay, what do you want to ask me?" And then when you ask them a question, like, "Oh, LGBTQ, no thanks."
Yeah.
They kind of like walk off, kind of, you know. And as well, I think we read a lot of articles in the classroom, but you don't really have a connection with the articles until you actually like live them out, kind of, you know, thing. Where, for example, like one of the articles like about identity, or I remember asking as one of the students, "What do you feel about like what does diversity mean to you?" And then so they kind of explain to you, so you get like a real life kind of aspect where you're able to connect to it instead of just being an article, a bunch of words that you're like, "Oh, I don't know who the author is," but it's like more like a one-on-one interaction. And I think
Okay, so asking people these questions, I definitely think that like people, it's kind of, they don't want to answer you, they don't want to stop for you, they don't want to talk to you about their social opinions, and I'm actually kind of shocked because here in Capitol Hill, and especially in the classroom, people are just filled with their social opinions, and that's all they want to talk about. So then we go around the school and around Capitol Hill, and people just don't have much to say, so I was kind of shocked actually that most people didn't really want to get into it.
Okay, thank you.